That's what it's called Logic. That's what the Apple's high-end editing software is called.
Oh, okay.
So
that's a nice name for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It's like pressuring you to use it. Like if you don't,
you're just some sentimental meat bag. Yeah.
It would be illogical not to use it. Anyhow.
Huh. All right.
As opposed to Audacity, in which you'd have to be like truly audacious in order to use that. Ugh.
Yeah, like, well, that's the reason I use it. As I felt like I was being dared to use it. Like, you would have to be truly brazen in order to use this program. And I was like, yes, thank you, sign me up.
They should rename it Temerity.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Mitas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things. How was it?
It was phenomenal.
Oh, cool.
It was the best con I've ever been to.
Wow, that's.
I haven't been to that many, but
well, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, and it was the reason it was the best con that I've ever been to is because I was a lot more socially involved. Because one of the reasons is because I had met some people last year.
Right.
Another was because this happened to be like jam packed with people that I'd known on Twitter for many years and was only now getting to meet. Yeah. So it was like kind of I walked in and I was like, oh, hey, you're this person, and they're like, oh, hey, you're this person. Yeah. And then of course because of that I also met new people, and I was much more. Like, I stayed up late in the lobby basically drinking and talking with people. So
that sounds like a fun thing to do.
But the programming was also really damn good.
Well, and you were like a part of it, or you were a part of like the panels and stuff.
Yeah, I was involved. I was a part of the program.
Yeah, you were really involved at every level.
I didn't interview anyone on stage. I didn't volunteer. Right. I didn't run it.
Well, but you probably could have, had you been like called to the challenge. Had someone in a desperate rush just run out to you, like running to just everyone, like, does anyone know how to organize a con? Anyone know? Do we have any con organizers in the house? And you would have said like, well, I'm not a con organizer, but I know a thing or two about cons. And then they'd be like, you're perfect. Just come with us. We got a con organization problem to solve. But no, okay, so you didn't do that.
So I want to list some things that happened.
Okay.
Hung out with Paul McGann in an elevator for like 45 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just me and Paul.
That's awesome.
And I wished him a happy birthday because it was his birthday.
Oh, yeah, there you go. He'll remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone wished him a happy birthday. But no, I mean, Paul McGann, he is very, like, soft-spoken and has this, like, great dry sense of humor. And he's very, awesome. Like, kind and generous with his time and gracious. Basically, everyone I've seen at either of these two conventions is just so wonderful, like, when you run into them or when you're seeing them on a panel. And I always leave a panel saying, like, wow, it is, like, that person is a massive asset to this fandom. And then eventually I realize, oh, wait a second, I keep thinking that. They must all be. Like, yeah, wow. Like, Noel Clark was there. And he was great.
Oh, wow.
He was excellent. I briefly danced with him at the dance party.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he and I had a very brief conversation about how we really, really, really wanted to zig a zig ah.
Well, that's...
By which I mean when that song was on, I was dancing, right. And then when that line happened, I kind of danced in his direction, and we mouthed that line at one another.
I think that's the only appropriate thing to do. I think you got to do that.
Yeah, and I had a nice chat with Katie Manning, who played Joe Grant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she gave me a hug and a little kiss on the cheek too. So, yeah,
that's sweet.
It was. So yeah, that was those are my main interactions with guests. I mean, there were tons of other guests like Janet Fielding, who plays Tegan, and Wendy Padbury, who plays Zoe. Oh, yeah. Apparently, they have this like really great double act where they hurl insults at one another, and it was so much fun to watch.
Oh wow, that sounds great.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, but like, and not even like I mean, I guess to an extent, I think like all cons are kind of this way, but it sounds like it's like really like I don't want to say like intimate, but like kind of like you really get to meet like people. Like
it is. You absolutely do. And you know, some of them, like Noel Clark was hanging out on the lobby on Friday night, just drinking at the bar with people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a bunch of other, you know, folks were like various guests were kind of drifting in and out of that, and you know, other stuff, and yeah, it's a very social con, and the guests like kind of walk around. They don't like go into secret hidden back hallways to move between panel rooms or anything like that. They just walk straight through the convention hall, and you know, it's possible because it's a relatively small convention, and everyone's pretty chill and respectful. I imagine there may be some, you know, bad apples, but yeah.
Wow, though that's awesome.
Yeah. So the panels I was on Classic Who versus New Who.
Oh right.
Which was tremendous. I think it was 6-on-6. With a moderator, so it was like 13 people crammed onto a tiny stage.
So this was like actually like there were 6 for and 6 or 6 for the new and 6 for the classic. Is that what was going on there?
Yes, and we were asked in advance which one we wanted to advocate for.
Oh yeah,
and nearly all of us said we'd be fine doing either. But I got placed on New Who, and it was it was a good time, and that was a good opportunity. It was the first thing that happened when I got to the convention. So some of the people on the panel were, you know, people I sort of knew of from podcasts or whatever, and it was cool to kind of get to meet them in that way by arguing with them.
Well, really, I mean, like, how can you really know a person until you've argued with them? I think that's just, you're just saving time there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was good. Then I was on a panel about Clara, which was, we just kind of chatted about, I think the title of the panel was What Will We Do Without Clara?
Okay.
And that was fun.
What was the conclusion of the panel?
I think we're going to be fine, but...
You don't say?
But yeah, it was a very pro-Clara panel, and there was a lot of really good discussion. So I was also on a panel about historical stories, like Doctor Who as a period piece. And that was fun. It was a good time.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I was on a Big Finish fan panel, too.
Right.
Talking about Big Finish fan panel stuff.
Just talking about fans or
no, just talking about the fact that we are fans.
Oh right, of course. That makes much more sense.
Yeah.
So that was good then.
Yeah.
So,
and then probably the most significant panel for me was one that I was not officially on.
Okay.
You're familiar with the podcast Verity, correct?
I am familiar with that podcast, yes.
So Deb and Erica from Verity were both at the con. Mm-hmm. And how much of it have you listened to?
I mean, I admittedly only like a few episodes.
Okay. So they have this recurring segment they do sometimes called In Defense Of.
Okay.
Where it's like a game where each person is like given a topic cold that they have to defend. It's like something that many Doctor Who fans are critical of, that they have to defend through whatever means necessary for 60 seconds without stopping.
Ooh.
And then they're judged on the quality of their defense. So the way this was kind of implemented this time was, it was basically just audience participation, where if you wanted to participate, you put your name in a fishbowl, and they drew 2 people, and they came up, and they both had to defend the same topic, one after the other. The audience would applaud, and whoever got the most applause got to stay on. And whoever didn't had to leave and then get replaced by someone else. And I got called up about 4 or 5 rounds in, and I had something of a winning streak. Like I had 2 or 3. Like I think I had 3 that I won, and then the one I lost was this this other guy whose name is Andy, I think, and I have no idea what his last name is or if he has a Twitter handle, but I'd love to know that if he does, because he was like super fantastic too, and he beat me out on a defense of the Brigadier's mustache.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a defense of that.
So anyway, then it kind of carried on, and at the end, when it was ending, they called up, the two sort of audience favorites, which were me and this Andy fellow, and Eric Stadnick of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast and Doctor Who The Writers' Room. And so there were three people, and each of us had to try to defend Donna getting her memories wiped. Which is something. I mean, some of them were like things I had no desire to defend. Like one of them was companions leaving to marry a man they just met. One of them was Mel in Paradise Towers. I'm a little sad that this wasn't recorded because I'm honestly quite proud of the defenses I came up with for these things.
Yeah, really. I mean, like, that sounds like that would be good. Like, I mean, anything material, like a podcast or just like anything. That'd just be good material to just be out in the world and existing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but I think it was fun for there in that moment. Oh, and the big finale with the Donna defense, I did end up winning that. So
nice.
It was it was kind of a small panel room, but the room itself was pretty full, and everyone cheering and applauding, and then that was the very last thing before I had to leave the convention because like it was 5:00 on Sunday, and I was staying. I probably should have left earlier, but I stayed specifically because I wanted to because I love Verity, so I wanted to see the Verity panel. And so basically, like, the panel ended. It was 6:00. Basically, mic drop, walk out of the convention.
Yeah.
So honestly, that was probably one of the highlights of the convention. Aside from the whole, standing around the hotel lobby until 2:30 in the morning getting drunk.
Yeah. No. That sounds pretty great too.
Yeah, but the just riding that high and then mic drop.
Oh yeah.
Not literal. I didn't literally mic drop, but it was like a figurative mic drop. For me, as like I'm now leaving the convention, like not like I'll be here all weekend. Nope, I won't.
Nope.
Yeah, but it was a wonderful time. I've already registered for next year.
Well, as you would.
Yeah, especially because it was cheaper if you just registered there.
Oh, really?
The registration is going to go live on the site in like a week or two, I think, and it'll be I don't know how much more expensive, but more expensive than it was there.
Huh. Interesting.
Anyone listening to this, I highly recommend they go to it. Are you going to go?
I mean, I'm thinking about it. I'm definitely thinking about it.
Think about it.
I am thinking.
Yeah. So there was also an episode of Doctor Who this past weekend.
I seem to recall that.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I don't know how much I'm going to have to say about it because it was overshadowed by the entire convention experience for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, I understand. Like, I mean, last year, the finale would obviously stand up to whatever you were experiencing, or at least it theoretically should. But I mean, this was just a regular old episode of Doctor Who. I mean, like, it's not going to stand up to.
Well, in a lot of ways, it wasn't just a regular old episode of Doctor Who. There was a lot of there were a lot of interesting things about it.
Yes, that's true.
I've spent less time kind of dwelling on it than I might under usual circumstances. So you're going to have to carry me through this.
Oh, well, I'll try.
Well, in any case, how did you like it?
So, like, I watched this episode twice, and upon finishing my first viewing of it, I just kind of sat back on my couch, and I thought to myself, my God, that was the greatest episode of Doctor Who that I can remember. Like, I think that it was perfect. And then the problem was that then I went and watched it a second time, and then as I was sitting down to watch it a second time, I thought to myself, my God, I'm about to watch the greatest episode of Doctor Who again. And so I sat down and I watched it again, and it was still good, but it wasn't quite. I feel like it's the first viewing that like really makes it, and I feel like once you watch it again, it sort of loses some of the magic. I think maybe I don't know. But I still really liked it.
The buzz at the con, because a lot of people at the con had already seen it, because there had been a screening in New York. Oh. And also because of they've been sending out like press screeners for this whole season.
Oh, right.
So various people at the convention have had access to those. And I heard the opposite, that a lot of people were saying that they didn't like it their first time through, but it improved on a second viewing.
Really?
This has been really divisive, I think.
Oh, I saw that online.
Yeah.
I looked a little bit online, and I just it was almost upsetting to me because I tend to like Mark Gatiss' stories, and so I tend to side very strongly with people defending Mark Gatiss' stories. And I saw a lot of people saying how terrible it was and how stupid they thought it all was, and that I didn't agree with any of that really. But no, I really did like it.
Yeah, the general atmosphere in the room, like as the screening was emptying out, was finishing, I kind of ran out into the lobby to get another glass of wine, and to come back in and watch the live Radio Free Scaro panel where they were going to do their immediate reactions to the episode, which was a cheat because they'd already watched it. It was cheaters. But as I was kind of walking out, the buzz in the convention hall outside the panel room was that people were like disappointed, saying, "Oh, I bet these guys on this panel are gonna sugarcoat it just to keep the audience happy or whatever." Or like, "Oh, Mark Gatiss for showrunner," like stupid. Yeah, and also everyone was like, a lot of people were super drunk too.
Oh well,
But many of the people I was sitting with actually liked it a lot, and I mean, I think there was a lot of confusion because the sound in our room was not super great.
Oh,
and I was in the loud room.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And
yeah, right.
Despite what I may have thought in advance and what I may have even said on the podcast last week, like, oh, I don't think it's as important for me in a just random Mark Gatiss episode to be in the quiet room. Right. This was an episode where the devil was in the details, and a lot of the dialogue really explained what was going on screen.
Oh yeah.
Nevertheless, I super enjoyed it on first viewing, if only because it was very creepy and atmospheric, and it was an interesting episode to watch in a crowd,
right?
Like, because people were reacting to the stuff. I thought there were parts of the episode that were just really scary. Yeah. So I kind of like, well, I know I like that, but I also kind of don't get a lot of it because I missed lots of stuff. And then I ended up watching it a second time, and I think it improved for me even more on the second viewing. I don't think if I was ever as glowing as to call it the best episode of Doctor Who I can remember ever seeing.
Yeah, I mean, for certain, to clarify though, my memory's kind of bad, so but like, I mean, certainly, I thought it was like, I don't know, like it was one of those things where, like, I for some of these episodes, for some of the episodes in Series 9, I've kind of had like either a mixed reaction upon first viewing, or just like I didn't really like feel strongly about some of these episodes one way or another. But like this one, I felt like that was like an adrenaline rush. That was a thrill ride. That was great. I think that's what it was. It was the best episode this season in terms of like ending on like a complete high, where it was just like where I was just so invested in what was going on, and it was just it really just sort of, I don't know, it was just so engrossing that like I think it was like the best episode this season at least, to do that. And so I think that may have been where I was coming from for the most part. Not to say that it's like, I don't know. I think like there are a lot of episodes that were like objectively better than this. Like, in fairness, like in terms of like in recent memory or even distant memory, like probably like Day of the Doctor is like the biggest adrenaline rush I've gotten from a single episode of Doctor Who. But yeah. I mean, like, but I think upon first viewing, I was so into this episode. I don't know. I thought it was so good. But I mean, like, but upon second viewing, I mean, like, I still think it's pretty. Like, I do still think it's pretty good. But it's probably not as high as it was for me upon first viewing.
But you still cheated because you got the enjoyment.
That's true.
The enjoyment of it being a much better episode than it was received.
That's true.
You won.
Yeah.
No,
well,
but
that's the thing. Can an episode really like go down in my estimation? Is that fair? Like, I mean, yeah, because like I can't say it's a bad episode because I enjoyed it. I can't go back on that. I guess I have to stick with it. I have to stick with my original assessment and say that it is the greatest episode of Doctor Who of all time. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I wonder how well it's going to stand up like to history, but in terms of right now, I just thought it was an interesting. It was a very different kind of format, and they did interesting things with the format.
Yeah.
And you knew you were watching something different right from the beginning with the opening titles.
Oh yeah, right.
Where the opening titles basically didn't exist. It was just the weird Matrix thing.
Right.
You know, there were like shades of Love and Monsters with the vlog that Elton did, but Rasmussen's. By the way, did you catch all the names in the opening?
You know, that was something that was pointed out to me, or something I saw on the internet after the fact. I did not catch that on either one of my two viewings, but I did read about that after the fact. And
Yeah, same here.
That's really clever.
Same here. It was pointed out after, and I went back and looked at them and said, "Oh, yep, they're all in there."
Well, yeah, and that's a cool way to do it, because it's sort of like, it's like, I don't know, it's like a way that almost like fits in with the found footage thing. Like, you know, it's like, oh, this is just like a document, and here are all the people in this document or whatever. And it just so happens that, you know, their names align so much in such a way that it forms the phrase Doctor Who, which is fine, you know.
I bought this on iTunes.
Oh yeah.
And the episode description was awesome.
Oh yeah. I saw that.
So you got the same episode description
or
on
well,
Xbox,
I mean,
or?
I assume it was the same one.
Yeah, so it basically talked about it as though it were a documentary, and it said the BBC thanks the families of the victims for allowing this footage to be released, or something like that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like, I did a double take. I usually don't pay attention to the descriptions, but
yeah, no, same here. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I love that commitment. I love how committed they were to making this seem like it was a found footage thing. That was just perfect. Because I think they needed that. I think they needed to commit to that.
There were a lot of different things that people said they didn't like about the episode. And you know, the all those things. I mean, I just, you know, fine with me. I mean, like I liked it. Like, for instance, there were some people who said they didn't like how much you saw of the monster.
What?
And I was like, I thought that was perfect. Like how at the beginning you see them off in the distance, and then you see one up close, and it's really creepy. The thing with the hand sticking through the door, dissolving into the sand.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe it was just, you know, seeing it in a room full of people. For me, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't be as impressed if I were, you know, stone cold sober and and everything. I'd only had three glasses of wine by that point.
Yeah, sobriety is overrated.
Yeah, but anyhow,
I mean, like for something that is like an eye booger monster. I mean, it's not like it looked bad. I mean, I think they did a really good job, you know, with the costume design and everything. And I think that like they should show it off. I mean, like, you know, but even still, it was revealed pretty gradually, I think. You know, I would agree with, you know, like they did sort of space it out with those shots. And so I think it kind of worked. I mean, I don't know. I think it was fine.
What did you think about the whole concept of the monster being something that, you know, you brush out of your eyes when you wake up?
I mean, like, it's not something, like, all right, so if you had told me, when I became a fan in 2007, if you had told me that, you know, in 2015 we were going to get an episode that was, the monster was literally just like, you know, eye gunk, I would not have believed you, and I would have said, what the hell? But it actually turned out pretty well. I mean, like, you know, I don't know. I mean,
think it was the way Capaldi talked about it that sold it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is, you know, he really believed it.
and like the stuff he said, like the really eloquent stuff, some of which was like Shakespeare quotes, but some of which was, you know, original to the episode, that kind of sold the notion that the fact that they're eye gunk is true, but it's discussed in a way that's more like they are the thing that we cast off after sleeping, in a more poetic way.
Right.
That kind of allows you to think more about like what it means to sleep and what it means to wake up, like how that plays into, you know, how you think about the situation because I imagine, you know, various people are going to have different responses to the notion that, oh, there's this machine that means we never have to sleep.
Right.
And the way that what the monster is becomes tied into your reaction to that.
Yeah.
Before you even knew what was going on, when you heard, oh, this is a machine, so you don't have to sleep, would you be on board with that?
Oh my God, you're asking me that now in the midst of NaNoWriMo? Absolutely. If I had an extra 8 hours every day, I would be on par every day, all day.
Yeah, I probably still wouldn't. I didn't write anything. Well, I wrote like fewer than 500 words during the convention.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised you even wrote that many, because I mean, like, I know that I would not be able to write a single word. Well, it doesn't, but I mean, in fairness, it doesn't take all that much to distract me from NaNoWriMo, which is why I so very rarely win. And no, in all fairness, I'd probably just squander those 8 hours. I would be sleeping anyway. So, I mean, it's probably fruitless for me to even try. I don't know. I mean, like the doctor makes sleep out to be this like great thing. And I don't know if like I would defend sleep quite so strongly. Cause like if there was a way to not do it, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't get more done, but I would enjoy those precious moments I had that I didn't. I mean, but on the flip side, then I do think it's horrible, the idea that they found a way to get rid of sleep, and they just used it to wring more profit out of those last few drops of profit out of their workers, which is something that sounds frighteningly plausible, that a corporation would invest probably billions of dollars to research negating sleep, and they would get their ROI by getting their employees to work 120 hours a week or whatever.
Right.
I could see that, and that alone terrifies me. Like that would have been a terror. I mean, and it does kind of add to the terror that here's these. It's sort of like portrayed as this upbeat thing with like the little video, the little hologram or whatever, with the Sandman song, and it ends with terms and conditions apply.
Yes.
But that's so it is terrifying that there's this this is the first thing they do. Is it's not like, I mean, I guess there's nothing else there's no other reason why you would research to get rid of sleep. The only possible reason why you would want to not sleep would be so that you could work more. I mean,
yeah, I'm the kind of guy who jumps at the chance to try Soylent. So this is essentially Soylent, but for sleep instead of food.
No, yeah, you're right.
Here's the thing I like about sleep. Ending the day saying, now it is time for me to lie down in the bed, and then things get fuzzy, and you are not conscious of how much time is passing.
Right.
You fade into nothingness and then fade back out from nothingness. It's a new day. Mm-hmm. So if they could change it so that same experience happens only with no perceptual difference on my end, but it's only like 4 minutes or whatever, then I'd be all for that.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if I could just stay awake continuously or stay awake with only the amount of time it takes to cook a bowl of soup in the microwave.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that, but because I do like the way that sleep frames the day. But maybe that's just how I've been raised. So maybe there's a different way that would be even better.
Yeah, that could be. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I used to have absolutely terrible sleep habits, and my sleep habits have gotten a little bit better in recent years. But I mean, there would be days where I would routinely and voluntarily stay up until the next sunrise and then go to bed like as other people were waking up. And I feel like I don't know if I'd have a problem with staying up forever. I actually don't know. I actually don't know if I would have a problem with that, because that's basically what I wanted. That's basically what I would have wanted. Because that's the thing is, people would start to wake up, and I would be finally surrendering to sleep. But it was never a fight that I wanted to willingly surrender to. So I feel like if I had the option, I would just never sleep ever.
See, the thing is, when I wake up, I have a hard enough time deciding what I want to do today without having to decide what do I want to do on an infinite time scale, or what do I want to do for the duration of a period, which I also now have to decide the duration of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like having that thing already set. It's kind of like, this is, you don't play Zelda games, so Majora's Mask, that's not going to make sense to you. But I love the fact that I love the constraints of that game, where everything has to be done in 3 days.
Oh, right.
And then you reset to the beginning of the 3 days, and some things get reset and some things don't, and you have to accomplish new things. I just love the notion that, all right, here's the plan, here's what I'm going to do, here's how much time I have to do it, here's what I'd like to fit in but probably won't be able to, and I have no control over how much time I get. I just know in advance how much time I'm going to get. I just like that.
I feel like Majora's Mask was a very good was like a really good learning experience that I missed out on. Because to me, I feel like I just want to be part of like this constant stream of activity, and I don't know how to handle like boundaries. And it's I mean, I can, like, when a deadline is looming, I have no problem like meeting that deadline. But I wish I could like say, I wish I was better at the time management. I think that's granted to you by mastering Majora's Mask.
And that's why I love Majora's Mask and also the game Pikmin, because they are as much as they're anything else, they are time management exercises where your goal is to efficiently use the time that's given to you. And in the video game Pikmin, you have to recover a certain number of pieces of your spaceship within 30 days before you run out of oxygen. But like, it's not oxygen. It's like whatever gas your alien guy that you control breathes. But anyway,
right.
You have to do that or else you die. So you have to get it all done in 30 days. But I'm always, whenever I play through it again, and I do it a lot, I'm always challenging myself. I wonder if I could do it in 20 days. So every time I'm like, all right, I start the day by thinking, all right, what's the maximum amount of pieces I can get today with the resources I know in advance that I'm gonna have. What's my 5-day plan? And it's so soothing for me for some reason. I don't know. Probably this just speaks to some kind of pathology that I'm undergoing.
It may well, but it sounds useful if nothing else.
Yeah, this is so tenuously connected to the episode of Doctor Who that we're allegedly discussing.
I don't know, but I'm really enjoying it. Listen, who doesn't love talking about productivity? I mean, come on. Come on.
So there's one aspect of this episode that I'm solidly negative on.
Okay.
That's 474. Is that the character's name?
Yes.
Okay. So Bethany Black, who plays 474, is the first openly transgender actor in Doctor Who. And I'm not crazy about the fact that the first openly transgender actor in Doctor Who played like a subnormal, like, freak of nature. It's not what I would have wanted.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible character otherwise, but
No.
Yeah, but Bethany Black has been tweeting about how honored she was and how much she loves the part, so obviously, I mean, there's some enjoyment being gotten out of it, and she doesn't feel that way, but I just wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, like, looking on the positives, she does get this like noble death or whatever, where like she sacrifices herself, so that's like pretty cool. But yeah, no, I agree. It's like, it is a little bit weird thinking about it. Like, that this is like kind of like it is like kind of a subhuman kind of character. It's a little weird, but yeah, I didn't actually realize that she was transgender. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I only knew that because of there had been some talk in the lead up to this series about the fact that it had 2 female writers and I guess 2 female directors. I forget. Yeah, 2 female directors because Rachel Talley's coming back, and the director of Blink, whose name I forget. Is it Hetty McDonald? Is that it?
That sounds right.
Probably, yeah. So, yeah, and then many of those actors also mentioned, oh, by the way, there's also a deaf actor and a transgender actor.
Right, wow.
So I knew this was coming up, and I was kind of curious to know in what context, and this, probably not what I would have loved to see, but again, I mean, it was, I do think it was a good character.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of... the RFS guys on stage after the episode mentioned that it reminded them of the Santarans because it's basically a clone race of low intelligence super warriors. But what was I going to say? Oh, what was the character's name from Planet of the Spiders? The developmentally disabled guy in the...
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyhow, yeah, I don't know. Kind of reminded me of that as well, where it's like this person proves their worth. Despite the fact that they're seen as worthless.
Right,
yeah, and wow. I did think that was pretty that was pretty good.
Yeah. Although that's funny. Yeah, right. Because this has been kind of like a lot of firsts this season. Where we've had a deaf actor in the show, and her role was a bit better, I guess. Like because she basically played just like a normal character, just who happened to be deaf.
Yeah, and whose deafness was acknowledged in the story and was an important part of that character, but was also not like a defining thing about them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I agree. It's a little weird. But yeah, I do think that 474 was a good character, though. I think that was good.
Yeah. At least one trans person I follow on Twitter was super down on the character, but at least one other was super excited about it, even after the fact. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of it's great that they employed a transgender actor.
Yeah, it's a step in probably the right direction. It's a step in a direction. Yeah. I think it's the right one. Mm-hmm. Seems like it could be the right one. I don't want to commit to it just yet.
Yeah, and because it's a clone, I mean, Bethany Black could come back and play 475 or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, much like the Ood kind of, right. Later on we came back and the Doctor always kind of felt guilty about not being able to do anything for all the Ood who died.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, that could definitely be a feature. Well, yeah, and not to like pull us away on too much of a tangent, but isn't there's some kind of like either speculation or confirmation that there's going to be a sequel to this?
I think Gatiss said something about he has an idea in mind for a sequel.
Oh, okay.
And I think one of the contexts in which I heard that was like, "Oh, great," from someone who didn't like the episode. But
well, that figures.
I don't know what concept it would be picking up on. Would it be the sleep monster? Would it be the the Great Catastrophe or Calamity or whatever? Great Catastrophe, I think they called it, or another episode set in like Indo-Japan.
Right.
or these clone grunts, or there are any number of these that could easily be picked up by another story.
Yeah. It's well, that's the thing is that's one of the things I do really like about this episode is that it really does introduce a lot of strange concepts that any one of which you could expand upon if you so wanted. And I mean, like, this episode by and large didn't expand on most of them, but I mean, I don't really necessarily have a problem with that. So there are possibilities for a sequel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be interested to see it. I wonder, is it like more found footage?
Right.
Like, Paranormal Activity found footage has a bazillion sequels. So is that the goal here? Yeah,
well, it could be. That's a cash cow or whatever, I think. But yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, it kind of, well, in another sense, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Blink in the sense where like, okay, well, we did this super creepy thing. Could we now move on to Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, where we got like more of an action-y story or whatever. I mean, I guess there's a bit of action in this, so it's not quite the same, but we could always take a different tone with a sequel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and explore something, completely different.
What did you think of Rasmussen? Is that his name?
I think that's his name.
Okay. Yeah, what'd you think of him and his plan and whatnot?
Well, first of all, with his plan, I don't really know it because he was revealed to be evil. Like, I still don't know if I've parsed this correctly. I mean, because he was revealed to be evil, and he claimed his plan was to spread spores. But then it turned out that was not true. It was actually just the signal embedded in the video. But and this was the criticism that I initially saw online was that they just have to not watch the video because he reveals it. So just like the first person who watches it, just be like, no, don't watch it or whatever. I don't even know that's true though, because I mean, it's difficult to say just how much Rasmussen is lying because he says so many different things and a lot of them are contradictory. He says something like, oh, the Sandmen, I don't know if he calls them Sandmen, but like, they're always evolving or whatever, or they started off they were just with the electronic signal, but then they evolved, and that's when they introduced the spore thing. And I mean, like, I guess he was lying about that, or he later says that that's not how they work, that it's always been the signal. But I mean, it could also be that they would evolve and that they would spread once the signal was transmitted. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
I mean, like, I guess insofar as I understand his plan, I mean, I guess I can like accept it. Like, it doesn't seem like it's that. I mean, like, well, I mean, it's a little much if indeed it relies on that the victim sit down and watch, a 45-minute video. That might be a bit much. Although I don't know. I mean, like,
Well, that's why his whole plan was to create this diversion that would he was trying to tell a good story.
Right.
Where the villain's plan was to make a found footage film.
Right.
And you think, like, at the beginning, oh, it's a found footage film. And usually the general idea of a found footage film is, oh my God, this weird thing happened and there's footage of it. And we, the people who assembled the footage of it, are freaking out about how weird it is. And here we want to prove to the world that this happened or something like that. Whereas in this case, it's like the villain's plot was to pretend that was the case long enough to force you to watch something that was enacting his plan through visuals.
Right.
And I just thought that was an interesting idea. I do think some people seem to be confused about what the ending meant. Like, some people, like, he says, oh, all of this was like concocted by me. So they assume like, oh, none of it really happened. The doctor wasn't really there, or it was messed with like mind warp.
Oh.
Like, how the Matrix was tampered with or something like that. And I don't think that's the case. I think all of it, quote unquote, really happened. It's just that all of the stuff that happened was a setup just to make a fun, scary found footage film that people would want to watch.
Right. He basically just he staged something so that he could get the footage he needed. And all that stuff really happened. I mean, like, those people really did die. I mean, but it was just like he set it up so that they would die, so that he would have something good to film.
Yeah, he did a good job, editing it together really quickly.
He did. That's really impressive. I mean, like, I can only assume that he was using like the latest MacBook Pro, and he had like his whatever it is that is on Macs. I don't know. QuickTime? No, that's the player. I don't know. I'm sure he had whatever it is that in the 38th century just works.
But anyhow, I liked the plan. I thought it was, clever, and yeah. I liked the character. I thought the performance was good. That is Reese Shearsmith, who played Patrick Troughton in An Adventure in Space and Time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's known for his association with Mark Gatiss on The League of Gentlemen, which is like a sketch comedy.
Oh, I've heard of that. But I've never seen it.
I've actually never seen it too, but I know that it also features Steve Pemberton, who was in Silence in the Library. As Lux, the corporate guy.
Huh, interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So, it was. I thought. Yeah, I thought he was. I thought the rest of the guest cast was, pretty good. It was just, the characters weren't too terribly memorable.
No, not really.
I do think, good job with diversity in general. So that's always nice to see.
Yeah.
I did think that parts of it were conceptually a little too similar to Under the Lake for me. Like, for instance, in Under the Lake, it's you can't look at the thing on the ship, or else you'll become infected with the thing. In this case, it's you can't use the Morpheus, or else you'll become infected with the thing. And it was. In both cases, it was like, oh, this one person was never affected or something because of circumstances. Right. Like, this is the one guy who, because of objections, like political objections, never used Morpheus. And then there was, God, I forget his name, but the sign language interpreter who never read the symbols.
Right.
But still, I mean, yeah, didn't bother me too much.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's probably fine. I mean, you're gonna, that is a little bit odd that's that's two episodes that are pretty similar within the same season, but it's bound to happen, I guess. In a show as long and storied as Doctor Who, you're gonna get that, I guess. Well, and it's funny because there were several things about this episode that I thought were weird, like or things that I noticed that I don't know, like this episode was so good in that it addressed all of my concerns as I was having them. How they do the point of view footage from each of from everyone who's been. We later find out everyone who's been in Morpheus. But it was weird because like I noticed like maybe it may have even been like during that scene where Clara gets put into the Morpheus thing. I didn't connect this, but like I noticed like pretty right away that like we're seeing from Clara's point of view too. And we shouldn't be seeing that because Clara doesn't have like a camera or anything, and so so when that was actually addressed, I was like, oh wow, well thank you episode for taking care of that issue I had. So that was neat, and another thing was like the sort of like signal that was embedded in the episode is like I was thinking like wow that because it like sort of like. It appears as like kind of like not static in the traditional sense, but like sort of what's it like tiling you get with like a digital signal, where it like has that sort of tiling effect, and then it also has like kind of like an annoying noise. And I was and I was thinking to myself like, well, that's getting really annoying. I wish they'd stop doing that. And then and then it turned out at the end, they're like, oh no, that's actually an important plot point was that was happening throughout the whole thing. So I was like, oh wow, all right, I guess this was. This was doing like it's like this episode worked really hard to like meet my criticisms head on, and or at least the ones that I was having as I was watching it. So that was really good. That's kind of the only thing that I noticed like during the episode that I was like annoyed with, and then it turned out that those things were actually intentional, which I thought was cool. But yeah. So yeah, and that actually probably contributed to my thinking that this was the greatest episode of all time. Because it was somehow managing to negate my complaints as I was having them, which is pretty cool for a Doctor Who episode.
Service.
It is
on-demand complaint negation.
Yeah, you can't ask for more than that.
Nah.
Was it just me, or did like the base computer kind of sound a little bit like GLaDOS?
Yeah, no, it wasn't just you.
Okay, I thought because it sounded like it was really intentional. But I mean, the thing is, like, I love like the GLaDOS, like the whole concept of like GLaDOS as a character. I love that so much that like any manifestation of GLaDOS, I just instantly love. Like even like blatant ripoffs, I just instantly love them.
Yeah, and the personality was GLaDOS-esque.
Yeah,
I mean, there wasn't that much of it, but
yeah.
I
wish GLaDOS would be in more things.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go on record saying that.
I wish they'd find a way to put GLaDOS in Super Smash Brothers.
Oh my god, that would be so good.
If Cloud Strife can be in Super Smash Brothers,
come on,
then surely GLaDOS can.
Yeah, you gotta figure. I don't know how, but I'm sure that they could do it. It would not be impossible.
Yeah, her primary means of combat would have to be passive aggressive psychological manipulation.
That'd work too. That'd be devastating.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, like, I've always thought, like, if Valve ever wants to try and make like a phone operating system, because like I don't know why they would, but I mean, like, they branched out into PC operating systems. So like if they ever want to make like a phone operating system, like Apple has Siri and Google has Google Now or whatever, which I guess has a voice, and Microsoft has Cortana. But like if Valve used GLaDOS in a phone OS, like I'd be all over that. I would want to get like reminders and have GLaDOS read text messages to me. That would be like great. That would be like that would be like that would be so much better if my text messages were read to me like in a total passive aggressive tone.
Well, I'm sure it'll be reality someday. I mean, you can get like Darth Vader GPS instructions and whatnot. Yeah. So someday that'll happen.
Oh, I hope so. I also saw a lot of people complaining about the idea that, like, they were as the grav shields got shut down, that like they shouldn't experience more gravity, they should be in free fall or whatever, and that I think assumes a lot of knowledge on gravity shields, because I don't think we actually know anything about what a gravity shield does.
Yeah, I mean, no, we don't. You're right.
I mean, I assume that it protects. Or shields even an object or objects from gravity, but that's just an assumption.
Or it could just be a restraint on the vessel's own gravity generation.
That could very well be.
Yeah,
that's true. So I think we need more before we can call this an actual criticism. We need to know more about what gravity shields are and what they do.
Much more.
I think we need a lot more research possibly even a sequel to discuss solely, the concept of gravity shields.
Maybe that's what the sequel is going to be all about.
It could be. Gatiss did introduce a lot of concepts here, and gravity shields are one of them.
And you know what? I may have made this comment before, but after I never expected the gravity globes to turn up again.
Oh, right.
After their appearance in the Satan Pit.
That's
but
right.
There they were in Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone, and whereas in Satan Pit their function had nothing to do with gravity and everything to do with light, they actually played a gravity related role in the plot of Flesh and Stone.
Yeah, and now do you think that do you think their primary function is gravity and light is just an accident? That they just were like, well, we made these anti-grav things, and they just happen to really glow brightly because they get really hot or whatever. I guess this is useful, guys. Let's try and market this.
Yeah, maybe kind of Post-it notes where one person, I don't even know if this is true or if it's just an urban myth or something, but he was trying to create something that would always stick. But then the boss was like, "No, this is perfect. They'll love it." The cigar chomping boss, and then he said, "Now get me pictures of Spider-Man."
Yeah, I think those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah,
you're working for the Daily Bugle, but the Daily Bugle is a newspaper organization, but it's also 3M. It's got its 3M division.
Exactly.
So okay, another thing, and this I don't know how well, I guess you would have heard this on your second viewing, but the Doctor makes a reference. He says it's like the Silurians all over again.
Oh yeah.
I don't get that. Funny. I don't get that line.
Clara decides she's going to name them. And the Doctor, he objects to that because he wants to retain the naming rights.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
The general idea, the Silurians. Silurian is that actual period.
Right, it is.
And that's not when they're from. They're from the Eocene period, which is why. And I think in the Sea Devils that's clarified. And then I think in the Silurian two-parter in the fifth series, right. I think Matt Smith has a line where he says the Silurians are sometimes they're called the Eocenes. Or something like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
I think it this is an acknowledgement that the the Silurians don't actually come from the Silurian period. They are from the Eocene period.
Huh.
And the Doctor's a little mad that was the name they ended up using.
Oh wow. Well, justifiably mad. I think. I'd be upset. I'm just enough of a pedant for that to always bother me.
Yeah, it's funny because that's. That usually if there's a reference that only really nerdy classic Who fans would get, it's usually pretty inconspicuous. Mm-hmm. But that was pretty conspicuous for a reference of that type.
Yeah. Well, and I think it happens during a pretty intense scene, or it's probably in between pretty intense scenes. But I think they immediately segue into an intense scene, so you don't have much time to linger on it. But it was something that stuck out to me each time I watched it, and I only remembered it right now because I wrote it down. But it did stick out to me at the time. But yeah, that's really something.
Yeah, so that episode, that classic serial should have been entitled The Eocenes rather than Doctor Who and the Silurians.
You wouldn't have kept the Doctor Who and the or Doctor Who and.
Well, I mean, I guess it's presumably that was done by accident, I think.
It's not the Doctor Who and.
The Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Right, because that could happen too.
Yeah, so the Sea Devils, Joe mentions the Silurians, and the Doctor says, that's a complete misnomer. The chap who discovered them must have got the period wrong. No, properly speaking, they should have been called the Eocenes. And then in the Hungry Earth, yeah, the Doctor says they're not aliens, they're Earthlians, once known as the Silurian race, or some would argue the Eocenes, or Homo reptilia.
Right. Huh, interesting.
So that one kind of sails by.
Right.
Because
he could just be rattling off any old list of names. I mean, Homo reptilia sounds like a new name that was never mentioned before.
Yes, but it's also completely nonsensical in terms of how that nomenclature actually works.
Yeah, right.
Because Homo is a genus of primates.
Right.
And so, I mean...
Right, if anything, it would be like...
some genus of reptiles, then sapiens.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like it's a mashup. Like it's you do want that kind of a mashup where like you want like an upright walking intelligent humanoid, but you want it to retain its genus or whatever. So yeah, they had that mashup was all wrong. It was a portmanteau, but it was the wrong way.
Yeah, kind of like it's kind of like the word prequel, which is a mix of, I think it's like an improper construction of Latin roots.
Yeah.
My good friend Steven Berger, his father, who is a classics nut, once lectured me when I used the word prequel. And he was like, "You shouldn't use the word for this reason." And I was like, "But I'm not speaking Latin, so."
Right,
Yeah.
That's there you go. Well,
This is when I was like 8.
Well, no, I think it follows though. I mean, but that's also the thing is it's like you immediately know what they're talking about. What I'm saying is it's an accessible concept. Even if you're unfamiliar with what that word means, you can kind of guess. If you know what sequel means, you can extrapolate.
As the doctor says to Clara in this episode, pedant. That's the thing.
Yeah. That's another thing this episode did is like, the doctor and Clara at the start of this episode were just like having this conversation among themselves, between themselves, and like, this team, and you're seeing it from this team's point of view. They sort of like stumble upon them.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if we included this discussion in any previous episode, but like it kind of feels like where it's almost like the Doctor and Clara just like stumble into another story.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like you're it's almost like it's a different, because this kind of does feel like, I don't know what I would have called it at first, like some sort of like Battlestar Galactica thing, or that is to say the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, where it's all gritty and realistic or whatever. I don't know what I would have said that was, but I mean, it didn't feel like an episode of Doctor Who until the Doctor and Clara show up, which is kind of like a fun thing where it's like, here these people are, they're just having their own adventure, and then like here, the Doctor and Clara just like show up.
Yeah, and the Doctor, he just stumbles into the middle of Rasmussen's plan,
right?
And it gets carried off without a hitch, and the Doctor doesn't foil it.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Yeah, that's really something. Well, right, because had the Doctor not shown up, a very similar string of events would have occurred. It would have been slightly different. Maybe things would have gotten done faster, because it ends with him. He's won at the end.
I do think the Doctor makes it better.
Oh, absolutely.
Which means he actually helps the villain.
Right.
I wouldn't watch it if it weren't a Doctor Who episode.
Well,
I'm not much of a horror fan, so
right.
Just some found footage horror film in space. Probably not something I would ever get around to seeing.
Right. Yeah. But here's the thing. Does anybody in this universe know about the Doctor, or at least in the 38th century?
Well, I don't know, but he does make it more interesting because
that's true.
He comes in and spouts flowery poetry about stuff, and like there's the drama with like Clara getting infected apparently, and then there's all kinds of stuff that would never have happened. It would have been a lot more straightforward without him.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Actually, that's a good point. And who knows? Maybe this could like spawn a whole other like Linda, where like oh look, there's this found footage of this man, the Doctor, and he just appears, and and then like all hell breaks loose, and so yeah, this could be like another thing like that, where like the real fascination here is the Doctor. It's also these Icon monsters, but it's also the Doctor. And that's kind of, yeah. It's kind of bad in that it helped the villain win, but it's also kind of, it's far more entertaining.
Yeah, but anyone sees it, they're not going to form a fan group because they're all like doomed.
Right. That's true. They'd have to already be members of 38th century Linda.
Yeah.
And so then this is their final undoing.
Right.
This is like their absorbable off. That's true. The Doctor made this objectively like more effective, and in so doing, really like doomed the human race.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, it's his fault. Actually, so this really does like need a sequel so that the Doctor can like fix his mistake here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wonder whether this is somehow going to be a stealth two-parter where the next episode is going to revisit some of it.
It could,
but I kind of doubt it.
Well, right, because Rigsy we know is 21st century.
Right.
So unless there's some weird, time space thingamasomething where, it's the Morpheus signal or whatever has somehow traveled backwards in time, or maybe there's like a starting point in the 21st century that like sets off the chain of events that leads Rasmussen to make Morpheus in the 38th century. So like if he stops it in the 21st, then it won't carry forward. I don't know. I don't know.
What do you think about the trailer for next week?
I really don't know what to think. Because, I may have to watch it again. But it seemed like there were a lot of, I don't know, like the thing that stood out to me most was just like the numbers on the back of his neck. Mm-hmm. That's like the thing that stood out to me most. And I'm trying to remember. I remember the Doctor had some line about saying he was dying. And
also Maisie Williams was in it.
Was she?
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it stands to reason. Technically, I'm sure Maisie Williams has been in every episode of Doctor Who since, whenever. Since any episode set in times after Viking times on Earth, that is.
Yeah, but she was indeed in it, and it was already confirmed that she was going to be in this episode.
Oh, really?
But I had a feeling you might not already know that, and so I didn't mention it. But her voice she was not seen in the trailer, but her voice was heard. So
okay.
I figure now it's an open point of discussion, but you hadn't noticed it, so maybe I shouldn't have.
No, I mean, I think. I'm sure that would have been spoiled for me before Saturday somehow.
Okay.
So don't feel bad.
All right. There is a huge spoiler out there for the finale.
Oh, really?
Yes. In fact, it's in the official BBC synopsis.
Really? That's terrible.
Yeah. So I ended up seeing it by accident.
I feel like I saw a spoiler for the finale, but now I can't remember what it was. So I guess I'm unspoiled. No, because I don't remember. I don't even want to spend too much time thinking about it because I'm going to remember.
Yeah, don't.
Let's move on to something else. But yeah, okay. So Maisie Williams is in this upcoming episode.
Yes.
Well, that's good because I want to see her again. I want to check in on her and see how she's doing.
I think an unannounced spoiler, or at least a spoiler that was not previously known to me, is in the closed captioning for the Next Time trailer on iTunes.
How does that work?
Because the way that line was attributed, her line, the name of that character.
Really? They gave that character a name. So it wasn't just...
It would be a very minor spoiler, I think, but...
It's not like the Minister of...
No.
Okay.
It's me with like a title before it.
Oh, okay. Well, but... because her previous title was Lady Me.
Yes, but it's a different title.
Oh, is it like...
And it's not like a super shocking title, but it's like, that's kind of interesting.
So should I remain unspoiled, or do you want to tell me?
I mean, I'm not mad that I found out, but it's like, that's kind of weird. So I don't know how you'll feel.
I probably won't feel mad.
All right. Well, it's Mayor Me.
Mayor Me. That sounds like it feels like a downstep. Like that feels like you were part of the aristocracy or whatever, and now you're just an elected representative.
Well, I mean, the aristocracy had actual substantial power back then, whereas they're just kind of rich, boring people.
Right.
So a mayor actually gets stuff done.
Right. That's true. She's just going with the times.
Is she the mayor of Diagon Alley, I wonder? Because that was Diagon Alley. I don't know if it was literally the Diagon Alley set. I imagine it probably wasn't, but it looked a lot like the Diagon Alley from the film.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, could be. Well, Diagon Alley needs a mayor, I think. Right? Is there?
It's not. I mean, it's part of London.
Well, all right. So, but I mean, are there wizard mayors? You know what? You already talked about this on another podcast. Let's not get into this.
Okay. I mean, we have talked about Doctor Who on that podcast.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. There's some spilling over, I think.
Yeah.
Because I know that like the Minister of Magic will like talk with the prime minister. So it's kind of like there's some overlap there.
Yeah, I mean, he like there's. I think the population of Magical Britain is small enough that he can get personally involved in like stuff in Magical London.
Mm.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have a whole lot to do in the book, like Cornelius Fudge.
Right.
He's like, well, I guess I'll go find Harry at the Leaky Cauldron after he blows up his aunt, and warn him about Sirius Black, which I could have done by owl.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, you'd think he'd be better at like delegating that stuff. But yeah, no, but well, I mean, that's the thing is it's the personal touch.
Maybe he just wanted to meet famous Harry Potter. So
he could very well. I mean, who doesn't want to meet famous Harry Potter?
Nobody doesn't want to meet him, I think.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not at all mad that I found out that me has been elected mayor of something.
Yeah, mayor of something.
Yeah. Could she have bigger plans? Does she plan to become prime minister one day? That's the thing is, it's hard to get away from that. Like, I mean, she would fake her own death or whatever, but it's hard to, like, if you're the face of the former prime minister who's faked her own death.
Yeah.
That's kind of hard.
It's also possible that whoever was writing up these captions had no idea what they were talking about, so they were just having a little fun.
That could very well be.